Hello, hello. I'm Pastor Bobby D. Hamilton, and here we are once again at Pastor B's kitchen table. And as you know, every week we get together and we chop it up and break it down and put it back together at the kitchen table. As you know, we normally have a great panel of guests, and we can't have our guests here physically, but thank God for the medium of technology that we have a guest here, and a very extraordinary guest. I could say who's my friend, and I call her the gardening guru, if you will. And so we have the Dolly. Dolly, if you would say hello and just tell us who you are.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be at Pastor B's kitchen table. I'm Dolly Martin Monroe. I see Pastor Bobby every week at KHCB, where I work as the Spanish program director over on the Spanish side. And I've been there for 29 years and enjoy the Lord's blessing there.
Amen, amen. Today, guys, we're dealing with something that's a little unique, but many of you are certainly doing this now. So we've been quarantined and been at home. Many of you have started your own little hobby project, and many of you, it's not just a hobby. I mean, it's a full onslaught. It's a full endeavor, and that is gardening. So we want to talk about how we use the earth and use your background and all those things to really bring up the fruit of productivity. And of course, I had to bring in Dolly, who's as I call a gardening guru. She's been at it a long time, know a lot about it. So we're going to learn today, and hopefully we'll help you to really advance to the next stage in your gardening. So Dolly, tell us first of all, how did you get into gardening?
Well, I got into it, first of all, when I went to Honduras many, many years ago. I saw that every single home, without any exceptions that I could tell, had fruit trees, and I love to eat fruit. And so I said, man, I wish I could do that in Houston, even though Houston's not tropical like Honduras. Right. I came back and started looking online and finding out information. And I found one place in particular called Urban Harvest. Mm-hmm. And Urban Harvest at that time and still has a community garden there. They have classes. I took a bunch of classes, and then I volunteered at their community garden and learned all the tips and tricks and everything, because every single week I would go for about 2-3 hours and help, and I would see how they did it. I saw how their gardens were laid out. And so after months of doing that, I came home and started applying what I'd learned. Many years later, I also took a Master Gardener course, but and that added to my knowledge. But really, Urban Harvest helped a lot. And I would recommend anybody, now that their classes are all, of course, online, but they have community gardens, online classes. In fact, their coming up classes are low volume irrigation in June, fall vegetable gardening in July, and composting in August. If anybody's interested, just Google Urban Harvest.
Urban Harvest. But Dolly, what was it about the gardening? Because you said that you were in Honduras and you saw the fruit trees, but what is that attracted you to it? I mean, because I've seen these things before myself, but I've never just been attracted, and now you're a master gardener. What was it within you?
Well, the other thing is the vegetable part. So I have fruit trees, but I also have a vegetable garden. The vegetable garden, I'm very conscientious about my health, and I don't like the idea of spending a ton of money at Whole Foods and other places where you get organic. And now they have it, every grocery store has organic. But back in the day, it was hard to find organic produce, and it was very, very expensive. So I decided I wanted to cut some costs there and grow my own vegetables and save some money and enjoy the outdoors. Because I'm an outdoorsy person, so I really enjoy the outdoors. So that was kind of all combined together. It made me want to pursue gardening as a hobby.
Wow, that's awesome. I never do that. I never knew how you got into it and what motivated you. Now, of course, I want to know, there's people who are watching who say, I think seeing the rising food costs and the threat of food shortages, and now we got some free time, I'd like to try that. What do you say to those who say, I want to try that? Where should they start?
Okay. Oh, okay. The easiest, the way I started and the way I learned at Urban Harvest is you pick a place, pick a spot in the yard. It has to be a sunny location where it gets between 8 and 10 hours of sun a day, because you have to have full sun, and a place that's not prone to flooding. You don't want a place that gets a lot of, that when it rains, it stays water there. You don't want that place. So pick a spot. Then after you've picked your spot, lay down newspaper on top of the grass, right on top of the grass, and then surround the newspaper. Pick a spot that's, well, if you've never done gardening, I would suggest start small. 3 feet wide by 5 feet long, more or less. And then fill it. Then after you've got either you can use wood or you can use stones or anything else you want to do to create what you're doing is you're creating a raised bed, because we have gumbo soil in Houston, and you do not want to create, put your garden down in the ground. It's terrible. You won't get anything. So you want to bring in good soil. You make a bed, and you bring in buy really good, not topsoil, garden soil, and you buy cow manure or chicken manure fully composted, and you mix them together, and then you have your nice, really good soil. The most important part of the garden is the soil. The most money you should spend is on the soil. If you got good soil, you're going to get great stuff. If you got bad soil, no amount of fertilizer will help. So really invest in the soil.
That sounds biblical, Dolly. That sounds biblical.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Yes. You do want to have your person planted in the soil that's really deep and rich and strong. You'll grow up to be strong and healthy.
Amen. Keep going.
All right. Then you're ready to put the plants in. Once you've got the raised bed, you can either put seeds, which I don't recommend for brand new gardeners, or you just go buy transplants. Just buy the little baby. You don't need to buy big ones, and like a 1 tomato or one. And the other thing is, don't buy. Well, again, if you're a brand new gardener, don't buy too much. Don't make the mistake I made, and many make. If you put too much, and then you're out of control. and too much time, and so make it so that it's stuff that you like to eat, and enough so that you're able to harvest it, and it's under control. So, and mulch. The last thing is you want to put mulch on top. Mulch is pine bark mulch or any kind of mulch. Don't use any that have dyes like red or black. Those are dyed, and the dyes are not good for the plants. So just plain brown pine bark mulch or any other mulch that you want to use. That keeps the temperature regulated on the soil, and it keeps the water, it keeps it humid, and so that it won't dry out.
Okay. So someone who's a beginner, what about the watering process? Is this something?
Irrigation. That's one of my tips. That's one of the things I learned at Urban Harvest. They used drip irrigation. And I didn't put it in right away, but it's the best thing I've done in my garden. Among the best things is to install a drip irrigation system. Back 5 years ago, it cost about $250 to get all the pieces and dig it all out. It might be some more now, but you can get it either at Home Depot or Lowe's. Just investigate drip irrigation systems. And don't mix. Once you decide on either the Lowe's kind or the Home Depot kind, they have different brands. You can't mix them. So you just decide which one you want, and then for the next 20 years, you want to be supplementing with that particular brand of drip irrigation. But it's wonderful. When you go on vacation, you don't have to worry about your plants dying in the July heat or August heat.
That is
so
okay. So that's a good foundational. That's like a starter's kit as how you can start the gardening process. Is what you're saying?
Yes. Okay. Now there are some things I would say do's and don'ts.
Okay.
Fertilize. One of the most important things that many people don't do is fertilize enough.
Okay.
There's all kinds. There's liquid fertilizers. One of my favorite is seaweed fertilizer. This one's called MicroLife Liquid Organics Fertilizer. This is really, really good. And you could actually, the label says you can put it on the garden every week or every 2 weeks. I don't have the time to do that, but you can. And you just put it into one of these guys. You just put and you don't even have to mix it with water or anything. These guys are great. You just put the fertilizer in there, connect the hose, and then you set it to 1 ounce per gallon or 2 ounces. I usually use 1 or 2 ounces per gallon, and spray the yard. And that's everything: the trees, the grass, your vegetables, everything will be blessed with the liquid fertilizer. Or you can use, and I use granular as well. I put that in the ground when I start the seed, the plant, put it underneath, and then after it starts getting the first fruit, you put fertilizer. And then periodically you want to add some more. Fertilizer is it's like our food. The plant needs food, so you need to add the fertilizer.
Okay.
I have some suggestions on homemade fertilizers.
Okay.
Oh, the other thing is don't use pesticides. You'll get, slugs and snails and stuff like that. Well, my recommendation is go organic because you're going to be eating this stuff and you don't want pesticides on your stuff. So there are some natural ways to kill the bugs. For example, you want to use alcohol and Dawn in a spray bottle. You just put 2 or 3 tablespoons of alcohol or Dawn or any liquid dish soap, and then you put that in there and spray it on the plants. And it won't hurt the plant. It won't kill it, but it will kill the bug. It'll kill any bug, all bugs. Alcohol is very destructive, so you want to just spray it all over the place.
Okay. That's a good tidbit there. Okay. What else? Some do's and don'ts.
I would, coffee. If you're a coffee drinker, don't throw the coffee grounds out. Put them in the garden. It has nitrogen. Coffee grounds improve the drainage of the soil. They improve the water retention of the soil, the aeration of the soil. Worms love coffee grounds, and you want worms in your garden because they break down the big clods and make them into really good soil. It repels the cats and it keeps the slugs and snails away. So coffee grounds. Another one is Epsom salt. If you have any plants that have yellowing leaves, add Epsom salt. They need magnesium. They're lacking magnesium. Roses love Epsom salt. 2 tablespoons per plant, more or less. And also, to kill weeds, you can use Epsom salt with vinegar. Vinegar is very potent to kill weeds. Now, I would not put this in the bed. Like if you have a tomato plant and you have a weed next to the tomato plant, I would not use the vinegar there. I would use it in the walkways or driveways, that kind of thing. It's very, very powerful. And plant according to seasons. There's something called the Vegetable Gardening Planting Guide. The Texas A&M Agricultural Extension Service puts these out for every county. I have mine for the Harris County, and it tells you by month, every month of the year, tells you what you should plant, and it has a list of the common ones. And for example, coming into June, you could do eggplant or cantaloupe or okra or peas or potatoes or pumpkin, squash or watermelon. Those are the ones but you don't want to do stuff like carrots or onions, kale, collard greens, those kind of things, and broccoli. Those you want to plant in December, January. They love even the snow. So you got to be sure if you plant at the wrong season, you're going to be having a lot of trouble.
Dottie, can you state again, what's the name of that guide?
Well, it's called the Vegetable Garden Planting Guide. Okay. And it's this one is for Harris County, and it's put out by Texas Agri-Life Extension Service. Texas A&M has their own agricultural department, and so it's called Agri-Life Extension by the Texas A&M. You just Google Vegetable Gardening Planting Guide, Vegetable Garden Planting Guide, and you'll be able to get it. They're very common.
Okay, that is so cool. Okay, the seasoning is so important. Okay, what else? Do's and don'ts.
I would counsel. You want to have lots of good pests in your garden, such as lizards, wasps, birds, frogs. So use, that's why you don't want to use chemical pesticide control, because that will deter the good pests from coming. And for example, wasps. I don't kill any wasps unless they happen to have a nest right underneath my back door. Right. Wasps are a good, and learn which ones are good bugs and which ones are bad bugs. So, and that's one thing I really learned a lot from the Master Gardener program. They had a whole class on the good bugs. So don't assume every bug is a bad bug. You want some bugs in your garden, the good ones. And for example, a bird bath is a really good idea. The even the squirrels, birds, and by the way, most people like to have tomatoes in their yard. Tomatoes, the birds will attack them if you don't have a bird bath. or a source of water. What they really are is thirsty. And they want to drink. And so if you put a bird bath, they will not be as tempted by the beautiful, juicy, watery tomatoes. So.
Okay. What are the bad animals? If those are the good the good animals, what are the bad ones?
Snails and slugs are terrible. They eat up all the leaves. If you have holes in your leaves, that's because you have snails and slugs.
Okay.
There's all kinds of, well, of course, ants. Everybody can't stand ants.
Right.
They're not really, actually, ants aren't bad if they're not in your vegetable garden. Because they actually aerate the soil. But they're such a pill. So by the way, I also have my favorite. There's lots of different ways. This is my favorite organic way to kill the ants.
Okay.
It's called Fire Ant Killer, and it's called Nature's Creation. Fire Ant Killer Mound Drench, but it's put out by Nature's Creation. Really, really good. I've tried many brands of different kinds, and this one seems to work the best. Nothing kills them completely, but it does. This one does especially if you apply it twice, once and then again a week later. It's pretty much done deal. They're all dead.
So Dolly, what about snakes?
I do not kill snakes unless I've never had a poisonous snake in my yard, but the grass snakes, I found them many times underneath the bricks, and they're wonderful. They kill the bad. They're good. They're a good bug. Okay. I mean, as long as they're not poisonous. The most common ones are the grass snakes. They're real little and they're brown, and if they're all one color, you know that they're not bad. So I don't consider them a bad bug.
Okay.
Now the tomatoes, there's something called, I can't remember. Another bad bug is the chinch bugs. They get into the lawn, the alcohol. You can spray out, even pour alcohol and Dawn, and mixed with water. In a gallon of water, you would put 2 tablespoons of alcohol and the detergent. And pour it right on, because you can see the brown patch. Just pour it right on there, and maybe do it again a week later, and it'll kill all the chinch bugs. It'll be, so there's bugs like that you want to deal with.
Okay.
I have, let's see. I have some suggestions for those who are more seasoned.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I would highly recommend you start a compost bin. It's not that hard. You can go from easy. There's all kinds of levels. My first compost bin was just throwing a bunch of. You have to have 2 basic ingredients: brown matter and green matter, and it has the same weight. So you need twice as many brown, like leaves, as fresh cut grass clippings. Grass clippings, of course, weigh more, but you want the equal weight. So it'll be twice as much brown as green, and you basically mix them up, and you have to mix them up basically once a week. You want to kind of turn it, and within 4 months sometimes, you can have a whole pile of fresh soil. So it's really, by the way, when you're a vegetable gardener, and even fruit trees, you want to add fresh soil to the garden every year. That's one mistake I made at the beginning. It's like at the very beginning, all the nutrients are in the soil, and then by the next year, when you start planting again, some of those nutrients have gone that are not replaced by fertilizer. You need fresh. The soil has nutrients and stuff that you want to. So that's why if you have a compost bin, or you have to spend money buying another bag of really good soil again, just to add as an amendment, you add it to what you already have, and to kind of give it a little boost. So compost bin is one. I would add, I've recently, after many years, added a water feature, a pond or a little fountain. And that is it attracts the frogs, and it helps to have a good ecosystem. You want to have a good ecosystem, butterflies, birds. Water is a good thing to help to maintain the ecology of and that attracts the good bugs. So a water garden is really, really good. Also add, this is a really important tip that it took me a long time to learn. When you want to buy new flowers or things to especially flowers, don't go to the gardening center and look around and see what attracts your eye. Do your homework before you go and figure out where are you going to put it. Is it going to be in a shady location or a sunny location? What size you want, a big bush or a small plant, and do all of that before you go, and go already with a list. Okay, these are the plants that will fit in this location. And you look, because I cannot tell you the number of times I've bought things, brought it back, and it didn't, well, of course it does well for the first month or two, but then it doesn't do well. And then when you do the research, you're like, oh, this is a shady location and this thing needs full sun. Duh. And so then you have to start all over. And so save yourself the trouble, do the homework first, and then go buy stuff.
Okay. That's good. That's a good point. Yeah, that's right.
And a last point that I would make is add flowers that attract beneficial insects, like butterflies and bees. You want to have bees, and don't kill the bees. The bees are really, really good. They pollinate. And hummingbirds. So butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds are really, really good. So there's too many to list here, but there's several varieties of flowers that are very attractive to the hummingbirds, bees, and butterflies. So look up those online, and then plant some of those in your yard, especially if you're going to have vegetables. You want to have the bees and the butterflies coming to visit to pollinate your vegetable garden. So I didn't realize the importance of that for many, many years. Now they came, but not as many as you want. You want to have enough flowers to it, and not just one flower, but I mean a whole section where it's worth their time to come and pollinate your garden.
Yeah, not just one flower. That's right.
That's right.
Okay. What about
vendors?
Those
are my tips.
Anything for any special vendors? Anything we need to consider on that side?
My favorite, I'll give you my favorite places. Wabash is a place called Wabash Feed and Garden Store, and that's located on North Shepherd Drive. Excellent stuff there. Another one called Buchanan's Native Plants, and that's in North Houston near the Heights. One that's near me, it's in Southwest Houston on Bissonnet near Chimney Rock, is Southwest Fertilizer. Excellent stuff. These are places that sell organic, or they specialize in native stuff to Houston. Okay. And so the bad thing about going to Home Depot, Lowe's, or any, those in particular, they might sell stuff, but it might not do as well in Houston. They might do well in Atlanta or, in Maine. And so these places are very localized stuff. So, and then of course I mentioned Urban Harvest. They have I don't know if you know what a community garden is, but they have all over the city of Houston community gardens. And so if you don't want to have your own garden, you can go and volunteer at a community garden, and that's really, really cool.
Oh, that is so cool.
So those are the vendors that I would recommend.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those community gardens, and it's a very industrious proposition. Some people working in there, and I assume that the fruits that they get, they give them away.
Or you can take them. When I was volunteering at the Urban Harvest, and again, each community garden has their own rules, but usually if you're a volunteer and you're helping, you get some of the produce. I mean, not all, but you divvy up between all the volunteers, and that's what we did at the community garden I volunteered. Maybe there was 8 of us, and each of us took what we wanted, because every time you go to the garden, you should weed, you should harvest, and in some cases, their motto is seed, weed, harvest, every time. Now, I don't put seeds down every time I go to the garden, but I do weed and I do harvest every time. And so, if you have a good, well-balanced garden, you should be able to do all 3 of those.
Seed, weed, and harvest. Mm-hmm. Now, Dolly, we have some pros here in the ministry who are and so we've got a couple of comments here that I want to just kind of ask you about because they knew that you were coming online. So here's a couple of questions I have. First of all, someone wants to know, how do you get your fall garden soil ready after you've harvested your spring garden? How do you get the soil ready for the next season?
Okay. After you've harvested, let's say all summer long you've harvested, and now you're ready to start the new garden. Well, you want to start indoors if possible. in little pots, and you put the seeds in and wait till they sprout, and that would be in July. This is for the fall. You would put them in the ground. Again, it depends. I would follow the planting guide, because it tells you exactly which month to put them in the ground for optimum. But if you start them a month before, or even 6 weeks before, you start the seed, and by the time it's ready you're ready to put them in the ground and ready to go. Otherwise, you buy them, buy them already. And that's the more expensive way. If you want to go the cheap way, you use the seeds. But of course, you want to add new soil, and you want to add fertilizer. So I never really remove everything and start all over. You're kind of you remove some, add some, remove some, add some, remove some, add some. So you're never like totally clear it all out. At least that's not the way I do it. And that's not the way they did it at Urban Harvest either. They kind of always had something growing.
What about which is better for a vegetable garden, chicken or cow manure?
Both. I've used both, and they're both excellent. They're both fully composted, and there might be some slight differences, but I use chicken more, but only because they're both good. I would not say anything bad about either one.
Okay. Do grow bags work in extremely hot climates?
Grow bag. I'm not familiar with that term. Grow bag.
Grow bag. We're gonna. I don't know what a
Sorry,
grow bag.
I don't know what that is.
Okay. Someone says this. They just potted lemons, limes, clementine, banana trees. They were told not to fertilize for the first 2 years.
Yes. Amen. I've made the mistake of fertilizing on the second year and killed trees. So do not fertilize. Also, you want to remove all the, when you buy it, it has some flowers and maybe some fruit. You want to get rid of everything for the first 2 years. You want the roots to get really strong. And if the roots are working on making fruit, it doesn't become strong.
Okay.
So remove all the fruit. Don't fertilize. Leave it alone. And then after year number 3, that's when you want to fertilize. Be very careful. And when you do fertilize fruit trees, don't fertilize right next to the trunk. You want to go basically drip line, or, and when they're little baby, you want to do 6 or 8 inches away. But as they get bigger, you want to go to the drip line.
Drip line. Okay. Here's some other things. I think you may have addressed a little bit. Organic fertilizer or insecticidal soaps for use on the plants.
Yes, insecticidal soap would be like the alcohol and Dawn, or they buy, which you can. It's the same. It's not exactly the same, but you can buy what's called an insecticidal soap, and that does the same thing as the alcohol and Dawn. You spray it on, and it's organic, and you spray it on the plants, and it kills the bad bugs.
Okay.
Without killing the good ones.
Without killing the good. So now, for those who are novices, they're just starting out. What do you suggest as some easy to grow plants, some starter plants? What would you recommend?
Vegetables, right?
Yeah.
Vegetables. For the summer, okra is a piece of cake. You cannot kill okra. Yeah, I like the ones that are a piece of cake and you can't kill them. Yeah. Squash is an easy one. Okay. Zucchini squash, summer squash. Zucchini is easier. Zucchini is not a hard one. It'll grow pretty easy. Okay. Their eggplant. Eggplant is not a hard one. And peppers. It's kind of those are the easy ones. Now, watermelon, for example, some people do. There are some squashes, there are vines, and they are subject to this thing called a squash borer vine, and that's a real pill. Watermelon aren't hard. I did watermelon several years, and they're wonderful. They do really well, except for one thing. You want to not mow. Okay. What they do is they take over the whole yard. Okay. I mean, they will take over, and if you want to move them and mow, you won't get any harvest. Okay. So then you have to sacrifice your lawn for 6 months until they're ready to harvest. So if you have a field or someplace where you don't mind, they take over the whole, then watermelon is a wonderful, easy plant.
Wow. Okay. Here someone wants to know, what is the advantage or disadvantage of using a greenhouse?
Oh, greenhouse. Well, for us in Houston, it's not as crucial because we are not. Freeze days are very minimal. I don't have a greenhouse. I kind of sometimes wish I did, but I don't. We don't really need it necessarily if you're careful. You only need it for the fruit trees. For vegetables, for example, the vegetables that you are going to plant in the winter, snow can be a foot deep on the ground and it won't kill them. Collard greens, kale, spinach, lettuce, broccoli, beets. They love anything. In fact, when it gets cold, they do better. So you don't need a greenhouse for that. But if it gets to freezing and you have a lemon tree or an orange tree, you'll have to protect it. So, but mine are in the ground. After about 5 or 6 years, they'll take down to 20. Here in Houston, they'll take down to 20 degrees and not freeze. Oh. So we don't get too many days where we're 20. We get 30s, but very rarely do we get to 20. So greenhouses are good, but not necessary.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers the question.
Okay. What about which vegetables work best for a trellis?
Oh, a trellis. I have lots of trellises. Vining plants, for example, cucumber. I have a bunch of cucumber out, and they're not a bush, and they like to vine. They're not like tomatoes. So cucumbers, squashes, watermelons, any kind of vining plant like those. I don't remember. Some of them, that peppers are not really viney, but they could use a trellis as well. Okay. Asparagus are another one asparagus, by the way, is a new thing I just did. Mine are a year and a half, and next February I'll start to harvest them. Asparagus grows for 25 years plus. So you can dedicate an entire bed to the asparagus, and they will produce abundantly for 25 years. So 25 years. Wow. Yeah. They're really a good thing. It takes a couple of years to get them going, but by the 3rd year you can start harvesting. Okay.
What about growing microgreens versus traditional greens?
Well, traditional grains, you mean like wheat and rice, and then is that what you're talking about? That's what I'm sure that's what they're referring to. Rye and other regular grains. I don't know what a micrograin food-wise. Yeah. I'm not sure what they call a micrograin. Quinoa, maybe? I'm not sure. I've never used that. But I've never grown grains. I just buy them at the store. I'm sorry. I did grow rye. Rye grows really, really well in the sun. I'm sorry, R-Y-E, rye, but that's the only one I have experience with, so I can't say. They do, some people grow wheat, but I think to get enough wheat to really make a difference, you have to have a pretty large crop. So I never really grew wheat, so I cannot answer that question very well.
But Dolly, what about greens? Have you grown greens, collard greens?
Oh, yeah, I do that every year.
Okay. Yeah, I think.
Yes, collard greens are super easy. You cannot kill a collard green. Same thing with kale is really easy. Again, they're winter. They hate the hot summer. They do not last. These are once it gets July, they'll just die. Other spinach I've done many times. Lettuce is very easy. These are all winter, so they do great, easy in the winter.
Dolly, in your experience, what have you found the most difficult about doing this? Because sure wants to want to know, because you make it sound so easy, Dolly, that even I could get out there and do it. I do not have soiled hands whatsoever, but you kind of inspire me here.
Good.
Yeah, so I want to know. Tell me, what have you enjoyed about it, and what's been the most disappointing about being in a garden?
Well, the disappointing part is the bugs. The bugs can really get you if you don't know. Now, the easiest solution to the bugs is you have to be in the garden just about every day, visiting. You don't have to spend 2 hours every day. Right. But if you're in the garden and just walk and look and kind of do an inspection tour and spend, maybe 10, 15 minutes, you will avoid a lot of problems. In my case, I was called myself a lazy gardener. Yeah. So I would only go out on Saturdays. I'd let it kind of do its thing. And then Saturday I'd do my harvest. I'd spend the whole day Saturday. And then the other days I didn't have time. Right. And that's when your garden doesn't do as well. Okay. It does okay, but it doesn't do well. It gets bugs, and many of the bugs, in fact, they taught us, if you catch the infestation right away, right, just squash the things, You see the bug and that's a bad bug on your tomato vine. Yeah. I wear gloves, and I just pick the bug and squash it, and the next day squash, and by the third day, the infestation is gone. But within a week, 2 weeks, if it takes you 2 weeks to catch that, then you have to use the insecticidal soap, and then you're behind the 8 ball.
Right. Dolly, now you mentioned about someone who's just starting out. What do you kind of approximate, or what window you give as far as cost? What do you think the cost would be for someone to begin starting a garden?
Wow, I can't give dollars and cents. I'm not very good at that. But I can say, again, if you're going to do just one raised bed, one little raised bed to put just a few little plants, the most expensive thing is going to be the soil, and the soil is a bag of good garden soil, maybe $3.50, and you might need. I did when I first started. I created my bed, and I went down and I have a pickup truck, so I went down, and for a quarter of the price, I bought a bed full of soil at one of these soil. They mount. The way they have the mounds of soil. And so I brought that back, and so that cut down a lot of the cost. But if you don't have a pickup truck, no big deal. Just buy the bags, and then it's really not that. That's the biggest expense. And you can put wood or you can put stones. I decided to be long term, 25. Wood you have to replace every, when it rots. Right. So if you're going to use wood as your border, you'll have to replace it. And I didn't want to do that. So I went ahead and spent the bucks. It is expensive to buy the stones. So if you don't have much money, you can go cheap. Or if you have some money and you want to just, do it right, you can spend more money. The bricks are going to cost some money, and the soil is going to cost some money. Okay. The plants don't, you can buy seeds for nothing. $1.50 for a packet. I'd buy a packet of seeds that last me, if you put them in the refrigerator, 10 years. Wow. So they're cheap. Seeds are cheap, and plants are more expensive. You can buy. It costs like $1.50 for one plant. Right. So that'll be a little expensive if you buy all the plants. Yeah.
Dolly, my final question for you is: do you still have your show? Are you still broadcasting your show every week?
Yeah, not every week. It's once a month. I have my twin sister.
Twin sister, that's right.
And we have a gardening show, and it's once a month, and we just have a good time because we're both gardeners and we both just love it, and we just share tips and tricks all the time. It's all in Spanish. Mm-hmm. But we once the last Thursday of every month we have our gardening show on KHCB's Spanish station.
Dolly, you need to get a translator on that station, or someone talk to Bruce about.
Okay, no, that's not true, because in English you guys have what we in Spanish don't have. There's all the television and radio shows that you guys have, gardening shows. They're all over the place, but they're not that many in Spanish. So you guys have choices in English, and we don't in Spanish.
Yeah, but Dolly, they want to follow you now.
No. Thank you, Bob. Pastor Bobby.
Dolly, I thank you so much. You have helped us tremendously. I'm sure you're going to want to get some more comments. And then when I come to the radio station, I'll certainly bring you the comments and additional questions. But Dolly, thank you for carving out time in your day. And you have blessed me. You remember from things from your garden you've brought. So I've actually have tasted the fruit of her garden. I have partaken. And she's very generous, and she really brought it from home. So, Dolly, thank you. God bless you. May He keep using you, and I'll see you down the road, my sister.
Okay, thank you. God bless you.